The distress signal. The research vessel Celestial Harmony drifted helplessly through the void, its once gleaming hull now scared with plasma burns and venting precious atmosphere into the emptiness of space. Chief Researcher Elzara Vex moved frantically between damaged consoles on the bridge, her four slender arms working independently to activate emergency systems, while her large, luminous eyes blinked rapidly in the flickering emergency lights. "Status report," Elzara called out, her voice maintaining a melodic quality, despite the fear that threatened to overwhelm her. Navigation Officer Trill limped toward her, one of his arms hanging uselessly at his side. "Propulsion systems destroyed. Life support at 38% and declining. Hull breaches on 3 decks. He paused, his voice dropping to a whisper. 22 crew members still alive. Elzara's skin rippled with a wave of blue, the Zarian equivalent of a grimace. Their scientific expedition to study the unique properties of the Vortex Nebula had gone catastrophically wrong when they detected unusual energy signatures and diverted to investigate. Instead of a scientific discovery, they had found the Vicora, ruthless interstellar pirates known throughout the Galactic Alliance for their brutality. "Keep sealing those hull breaches," Elzara ordered, turning to the communications array. "I'll try to get help." Her fingers danced across the damaged controls, coaxing the system back to life. The transmitter sputtered and sparked, but held. "This is Chief Researcher Elzara Vex of the Zarian science vessel Celestial Harmony. We are critically damaged and under attack by Vicora raiders. 22 crew members still alive. Life support failing. Requesting immediate assistance." The message broadcast outward into the cold darkness of space. Elzara repeated it, adding their coordinates and details of their situation. She knew their chances were slim. They were far from established trade routes, and the nearest Zarian outpost was days away even at maximum speed. "Vessel approaching," called out Junior Sensor Officer Mira, her voice quavering. "The Vicora are returning." Elzara's heart sank. The pirates had withdrawn after their initial assault, presumably to prepare for boarding. The Celestial Harmony carried valuable scientific equipment and research data that would fetch an astronomical price on the black market. "How long?" Elzara asked. 15 minutes, maybe less," Mira replied. Elzara returned to the communications array, broadcasting their distress call with increased urgency. As she worked, a small indicator light on the console began to blink. "Someone's receiving our transmission," she said, hope rising in her voice. The surviving crew gathered around the communication station as Elzara adjusted the controls to strengthen the signal. Information scrolled across her screen, identifying the source of the reception. "Sol system," she whispered. "The quarantine zone." Mira gasped. "The Deathworlders." Elzara nodded slowly. Every spacefaring species knew of Sol and its inhabitants. The Galactic Alliance had placed the entire system under strict quarantine centuries ago. The third planet, Earth, was classified as a death world, its native species deemed too dangerous to interact with the wider galactic community. "They can't help us," said Trill. "They're restricted to their home system by Alliance law. And even if they weren't," Mira added, "would we want their help?" Zarian children grew up hearing stories about humans, beings evolved on a planet with crushing gravity, extreme temperature variations, and constant predators. Creatures with incredible endurance and resilience, whose bodies could withstand radiation levels that would kill most sentient species. Beings whose very touch might be harmful to the delicate biology of non-Deathworlders. "We have no choice," Elzara said firmly. "Any help is better than none." Before she could transmit again, Mira cried out, "The Vicora are accelerating. Multiple ships on approach vector." The main view screen flickered to life, showing 3 Vicora vessels moving toward them. Unlike the elegant design of the Zarian science vessel, the Vicora ships were ugly, cobbled-together monstrosities bristling with stolen weapons. "They're charging weapons," reported Trill. Elzara looked around at her crew. Scientists and explorers, not warriors. They had ventured into space to expand knowledge, not to die at the hands of pirates. With sudden clarity, she knew what had to be done. She returned to the communications array. The indicator light still blinked, showing that someone in the SOS system was listening. Elzara pressed the transmit button. To anyone receiving this signal, we are peaceful scientists, not soldiers. Please help us. As the words left the communicator, the ship rocked violently. The Vicora had fired a warning shot, deliberately striking a non-critical area. They want us alive, Trill said. At least some of us. Everyone knew what happened to crews captured by the Vicora. Some were ransomed if they were valuable enough. Others were sold into slavery in the lawless regions beyond Alliance space. The rest were simply disposed of. Elzara closed her eyes briefly. The SOS system was their only hope, but what could the quarantine Deathworlders do? Even if they wanted to help, they were bound by Alliance restrictions, and even if they somehow broke those restrictions, they would never arrive in time. The ship's remaining lights flickered as another blast hit them. This one not meant to wound, but to disable completely. The celestial harmony groaned like a dying animal. Boarding craft detected, Mira reported, her voice barely audible over the ship's dying systems. They'll breach the airlock in minutes. Elzara looked at her fellow crew members. They were scientists to the end, faces showing curiosity about what would come next, even as fear shone in their eyes. It has been my honor to serve with you all, Elzara said simply as the Vicora prepared to board. None of the Zarian noticed the small indicator light on the communications console blinking rapidly, signaling an incoming transmission from the SOS system. Admiral Helena Chen stood motionless, her eyes fixed on the holographic projection floating in the center of the United Earth Defense Force Command Center. The alien distress call played again, the translator converting the strange musical language into crisp English. The voice sounded desperate even through the mechanical translation. This is Chief Researcher Elzara Vex of the Zarian science vessel Celestial Harmony. We are critically damaged and under attack by Vicora raiders. 22 crew members still alive. Life support failing. Requesting immediate assistance. The command center hummed with tense activity. Dozens of officers at their stations worked furiously analyzing the signal, mapping coordinates, assessing response options. The atmosphere was charged with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Play the final transmission again, Chen ordered, her voice calm despite the adrenaline coursing through her body. The hologram flickered, and the alien voice returned. To anyone receiving this signal, we are peaceful scientists, not soldiers. Please help us. Chen turned to Commander Marcus Rivera, her second-in-command and longtime friend. His usually relaxed face was now tight with concentration. So we've confirmed it's authentic? She asked. Yes, Admiral, replied Rivera, swiping through data on his tablet. Deep Space Relay picked it up 27 minutes ago. We've run every verification protocol. It's real. He paused, bringing up a new set of images. And we've identified the attackers. Vicora pirates. They've been hitting frontier colonies across 3 sectors. What do we know about the Vicora? Chen asked. Pirates. Brutal ones. Intelligence gathered from our covered observation satellites shows they target vulnerable ships, strip them of valuable tech, and either ransom or enslave the crews. His face darkened. Many victims don't survive. Chen nodded slowly, processing the information. For over 70 years, humanity had respected the galactic quarantine around Sol. Early probes had detected alien civilizations, and Earth had eagerly prepared for first contact. But when contact finally came, it wasn't what anyone expected. Earth was classified as a death world and quarantined. Humans were deemed too dangerous to join the galactic community, their biology supposedly too aggressive, their strength too great, their endurance too threatening. But humanity hadn't remained idle behind the quarantine line. They studied the stars, built powerful ships, and prepared for the day they might be accepted. Most importantly, they listened to the cosmos, intercepting communications, learning languages, mapping conflicts, understanding the politics of a galaxy that had rejected them. The Zarian, Chen said. What do we know about them? Officer Lakshmi Patel stepped forward, the xenobiology specialist holding her own tablet. Peaceful species, primarily scientists and explorers, physically fragile by our standards, evolved on a low-gravity world with a stable climate. 4 arms, large eyes, bioluminescent skin that changes color with emotions. Average height about 1.7 meters. They're known for their advances in quantum physics and stellar cartography. And the quarantine laws. What are our options? Chen asked. Legal officer Wei Jin cleared his throat. The Alliance Quarantine Directive is clear. Sole origin ships are forbidden from crossing the boundary line. Violation is considered an act of aggression. Are there exceptions? Chen pressed. Jin hesitated. There's no precedent. No quarantined world has ever. He trailed off, then straightened. Actually, there is a provision. The Galactic Maritime Code predates the Alliance itself. It states that all spacefaring vessels must respond to distress calls when able. A heavy silence fell over the command center. Everyone understood what was at stake. This wasn't just about saving 22 alien lives. It was humanity's first real interaction with the wider galaxy. Chen's expression hardened. She had made her decision. The distress call is sacred. It's a principle older than spaceflight itself. She stood taller, her voice taking on the edge of command. Inform the fleet. Preparation protocol Sierra Oscar Sierra. We launch in 15 minutes. Rivera's eyes widened slightly, but he nodded firmly. Yes, Admiral. The command center erupted into activity. Officers rushed to their stations. Emergency alerts sounded throughout Earth's defense network, and the global communication system activated to inform all nations of the decision. Across Earth's orbital shipyards, vessels of the United Earth Defense Force powered up their engines. Massive warships that had never seen combat outside of training exercises hummed to life. Medical frigates prepared their alien adaptable treatment facilities. Supply ships loaded with emergency provisions and repair materials joined the formation. The flagship Odyssey detached from its docking clamps first, its kilometer-long hull gleaming in the sunlight as the most advanced vessel humanity had ever built. It represented the pinnacle of Earth's technological achievement. The rest of Battle Group Alpha followed. The destroyers Sentinel, Guardian, and Protector, along with their support craft. In low Earth orbit, the rescue and medical vessels formed their own group, led by the hospital ship Mercy. None of these ships had ever ventured beyond the quarantine line before. Their crews were a mixture of nervous and determined as they prepared to make history. On the bridge of the Odyssey, Admiral Chen settled into the command chair. Around her, the bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency, preparing for the jump to FTL. The coordinates of the distressed Zarian vessel had been plotted, the fastest route calculated. All ships report ready. Admiral, Rivera said, taking his position beside her. Chen nodded and opened a channel to the assembled fleet. Her voice would reach every ship, every crew member about to risk everything to answer a call for help. This is Admiral Chen to all UEDF vessels. In moments, we will cross the quarantine line established by the Galactic Alliance. We do this not as an act of defiance, but in accordance with the oldest law of space travel, the obligation to render aid to those in distress. She paused, looking at the faces of her bridge crew. Some showed fear, others determination, but all showed pride. For generations, we have prepared for this moment. We have built our ships, trained our crews, and developed our technologies, all while respecting a quarantine we never agreed to. Today, we answer a call for help, knowing it may bring consequences, but we cannot ignore those in need, even if they are strangers. This is humanity's first contact with the wider galactic community. Let's show them what Deathworlders stand for. The bridge crew stood a little straighter at her words. Throughout the fleet, thousands of humans prepared to risk everything for aliens they had never met. Fleet Command, this is Admiral Chen, Execute FTL jump. Space distorted around the human vessels as they accelerated beyond light speed, breaking the quarantine barrier that had contained humanity for 7 decades. They were venturing into a galaxy that feared them to save those who needed them. The rescue mission had begun. Deathworlders unleashed. Warlord Krazek stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crimson Talon, a cruel smile spreading across his scared face. The Zarian science vessel floated helplessly before them, its elegant hull now scorched and broken. His 3 Vicora ships had the alien vessel surrounded with no chance of escape. "Begin boarding procedures," Krazek ordered, his deep voice rumbling through the command deck. "I want their research data intact, and bring me their chief scientist alive." The Vicora were the most feared pirates in 3 sectors. Their raids were quick, brutal, and always profitable. Scientific vessels like the Celestial Harmony were particularly valuable targets, often carrying rare technology and important research that could be sold to the highest bidder. "Boarding craft ready, Warlord," his first officer reported. "Teams are armed and await your signal." Krazek nodded with satisfaction. This would be an easy capture. The Zarian were known throughout the galaxy as peaceful researchers, with no combat training or significant defenses. His boarding teams would face little resistance. "Launch." "Warlord." The tactical officer's panicked voice cut through the bridge. FTL ruptures detected. Multiple signatures appearing. Krazek spun toward the main view screen, his predatory eyes narrowing. "Show me." The screen shifted to display the space around them. What he saw made no sense. Dozens of rupture points were forming, far more than their scanners could track. Ships began emerging from FTL in perfect military formation. "Impossible," Krazek snarled, his claws digging into the armrests of his command chair. "There are no military outposts in this sector." Yet the evidence was undeniable. A fleet of unknown vessels now filled the space around them, their design unlike anything in Krazek's extensive database of galactic ship types. They were angular, heavily armored, and moved with a precision that spoke of advanced military training. "Identity unknown," the tactical officer reported, voice shaking. "No matching signatures in our records. Their hulls bear no identifiable markings from any known Alliance species." "Hail them," Krazek ordered, sudden unease crawling up his spine. Before his communications officer could comply, all channels on their ship activated simultaneously. A calm voice spoke in perfect galactic standard, followed by repetitions in 12 other major languages. "This is Admiral Chen of the United Earth Defense Force. We are responding to a distress call. Stand down and withdraw from the Zarian vessel immediately." Silence fell across the Vicora bridge. "Earth?" the first officer whispered. "The quarantined world. Deathworlders." Krazek had heard stories, of course. Every spacefaring species had tales of the isolated system and its dangerous inhabitants, too violent to be allowed into galactic society. "They've broken quarantine," whispered the first officer. Krazek quickly regained his composure, quarantined or not. He counted at least 30 vessels in the human fleet, but most appeared to be support ships. He still had 3 heavily armed raider vessels against what might be an inexperienced military force. "Battle stations," he commanded. "Target their lead vessel and fire on my mark." Inside the crippled Zarian science vessel, Elzara and her surviving crew watched in astonishment through their few functioning viewports. The strange fleet had appeared from nowhere, positioning itself protectively between the Celestial Harmony and the Vicora. "Who are they?" Trill asked, his 4 eyes wide with wonder. "Earth Defense Force," Elzara replied, hardly believing her own words. "Humans. They answered our call." "Humans," gasped Mira. "The Deathworlders." Before anyone could respond, the space beyond their viewport lit up with weapons fire. The Vicora had opened fire on the human fleet. The crew held their breath, expecting to see the unknown ships shattered by the pirates' notorious firepower. What happened instead defied everything they knew about space combat. The human vessels moved in ways that should have been impossible for ships their size. They absorbed devastating hits that would have crippled any Alliance military vessel, their armored hulls glowing but holding. The flagship, a massive vessel at the center of their formation, took 3 direct hits from the Vicora's main guns without apparent damage. Then the humans returned fire. Precision beam weapons sliced through the Vicora shields as if they weren't there. Strategic points on the pirate vessels were targeted with surgical accuracy. Weapon systems, engines, but notably avoiding critical life support areas. They're not trying to destroy them, Trill observed. They're disabling them. On the main Vicora ship, the Zarian could see boarding pods launching, not from the pirates this time, but from the human vessels. The pods attached to the hull of the Crimson Talon with mechanical precision. The Zarian communication system suddenly activated, startling the crew. Zarian vessel Celestial Harmony, this is Commander Rivera of the UEDF Odyssey. We've received your distress call and are moving to assist. Please hold position. Medical and engineering teams are en route to your location. Stand by. Elzera's skin flashed yellow with surprise and hope. This is Chief Researcher Elzera Vex. We copy, Commander. We thank you for your assistance. Through the viewport, they watched as smaller craft broke formation from the human fleet and approached their vessel. Unlike the aggressive approach of the Vicora, these ships moved cautiously, carefully navigating around the damaged sections of the Celestial Harmony. A gentle docking procedure followed, and moments later, the airlock cycled. The Zarian crew tensed, not knowing what to expect from these legendary Deathworlders. The door slid open, and the humans entered. They were tall, taller than the Zardian, and moved with a fluid grace that belied their reputation for brute strength. Their environmental suits were sleek and functional, with clear helmets that revealed their faces. To Elzara's surprise, they looked almost familiar. 2 eyes, single mouth, expressive features, not so alien after all. The lead human approached Elzara and removed her helmet, revealing short dark hair and determined eyes. Dr. Sophia Reyes, Chief Medical Officer, UEDF Mercy, she said, her translator converting her words to Zardian. We're here to help. The human medical team moved with astonishing efficiency, triaging the injured crew with gentle, practiced hands. Their touch was careful, almost delicate, a stark contrast to the legends of Deathworlder strength that could accidentally crush alien bones. Another group of humans in different colored suits began immediate work on the ship's damaged systems. Their movements were precise and confident as they assessed the hull breaches and life support failures. Your atmosphere is leaking through these fractures, one of the engineers explained to Trill, pointing to a schematic they had already generated. We're applying emergency sealant now, and our support vessels are preparing to dock with portable life support systems. Elzera watched in amazement. These weren't the brutal warriors of legend. They were professionals, skilled, efficient, and clearly accustomed to crisis situations. How did you respond so quickly? She asked Dr. Reyes as the human carefully treated a wounded crew member. We've been monitoring galactic communications for decades, Reyes replied matter-of-factly. When we detected your distress call, we mobilized immediately. But the quarantine. Reyes's expression hardened slightly. Some principles transcend political boundaries. The obligation to render aid is one of them. On the bridge of the Odyssey, Admiral Chen watched the tactical display as the situation resolved itself with remarkable speed. 2 of the Vicora vessels had surrendered immediately after seeing their flagship disabled. The Crimson Talon itself was now under UEDF control, its crew secured in the ship's own brig. Boarding team reports the Vicora leader and officers are in custody, Rivera reported. Minimal casualties on both sides. The Zardian, Chen asked. Medical teams report 22 survivors, all now receiving treatment. The most critical cases are being transferred to the Mercy. Engineering teams estimate they can restore basic systems on the Celestial Harmony within 6 hours. Chen nodded, satisfied. And our fleet? Minimal damage. A few systems overloaded from pushing beyond safety parameters, but nothing critical. Chen allowed herself a small smile. Humanity's first official contact with the wider galaxy had gone as well as could be expected under the circumstances. But she knew this was just the beginning. "Admiral," the communications officer called out. "We're receiving transmissions from multiple sources across Alliance space. Word of our intervention is spreading." Of course it was. The quarantine breach would send shockwaves through the galactic community. Some would see it as an act of aggression, others as a humanitarian intervention. Either way, humanity's isolation was effectively over. "Open a channel to the Zarian vessel," Chen ordered. The view screen shifted to show the battered bridge of the Celestial Harmony. Chief Researcher Elzara Vex stood in the center, her skin cycling through colors that the UEDF xenobiologists had identified as indicating both gratitude and concern. "Chief Researcher," Chen greeted her. "I'm Admiral Helena Chen, United Earth Defense Force. How are your people?" "Recovering, thanks to your medical teams," Elzara replied. "Admiral, we owe you our lives. But I must ask, what happens now? Your presence here violates the quarantine protocols." Chen nodded, acknowledging the complexity of the situation. "We responded to a distress call, as any spacefaring civilization is bound by honor to do. As for what happens next, that's partly up to you." Elzara's skin shifted to a thoughtful blue. "You saved us when no one else would or could. That truth cannot be denied or hidden. The Alliance will have to reconsider its position on Earth and humanity." "We hope they will," Chen replied. "But regardless of their decision, know this: humanity will always answer the call of those in need. It's who we are." 3 days later, the United Earth Defense Fleet escorted the repaired Zarian vessel to the nearest Alliance outpost. News of the human intervention had spread across the galaxy, triggering emergency sessions in the Alliance Council and heated debates about the quarantine protocols. On the observation deck of the Odyssey, Admiral Chen stood with Elzara Vex, watching as Alliance vessels approached cautiously. "They're afraid," Chen observed. "They don't understand you," Elzara replied. "But they will. My people will tell our story. How the Deathworlders came not to conquer, but to save. How you risked interstellar sanctions to help strangers. How you showed restraint even in victory. And the Vicora pirates will face Alliance justice, along with evidence of dozens of other attacks they've committed. The data you recovered from their ships will end their reign of terror in this sector." Chen nodded. It was a good outcome, better than she had dared hope when she made the decision to break the quarantine. "Chief Researcher, before you go, may I ask what you were studying when the Vicora attacked?" Elzara's skin rippled with what the humans had learned was amusement. "Ironically, we were investigating unusual energy signatures that might indicate a pre-contact species on the verge of FTL technology. We believe in monitoring emerging civilizations, providing guidance when they're ready to join the galactic community, rather than isolation and quarantine," Chen said. "Yes, perhaps my people were more right than we knew." Elzara extended all 4 hands in a Zarian gesture of deep respect. The Alliance quarantined Earth because they feared what humans might do in the galaxy. Now they will learn what humanity can do for the galaxy. As the Alliance vessels approached to escort the Celestial Harmony home, Chen knew that the universe had fundamentally changed. Humanity had taken its first steps beyond the quarantine, not as conquerors or warriors, but as rescuers and protectors. The Deathworlders had revealed their true nature.